The newest D&D book just dropped, so let's see if it's a good one. It's becoming an annual tradition to receive an anthology of standalone adventures, and that's what we have here. Keys from the Golden Vault, and many thanks to Wizards of the Coast for sending it our way. Now, we haven't gotten the hardcover books just yet, but this is the standard cover over here, and this is the special cover available at game stores. I'm going to be giving you my first impressions based on my read-through of the book on D&D Beyond, which Wizards gave us early access to. Keys from the Golden Vault includes 13 one-shots, all centered around heists. You can string them together into a campaign that could play out something like an Ocean's 11 movie if you want to, where the team will go on increasingly more challenging heist missions while you fill in those character story arcs between missions. You get missions from level 1 all the way up to level 11, with 2 missions at level 5 and 2 at 8. Our last anthology, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, was a kind of a mixed bag. We had a couple of really standout adventures, but most of them didn't necessarily grab my attention as something truly special. This book is landing at a critical time for D&D though. We're gonna see if the OGL controversy did any lasting damage to the brand. My honest guess is that it didn't. But between this and the movie next month, we're gonna find out. But today, let's go through each of these heists and see if they steal my heart. Welcome to Keys from the Golden Vault. Before we jump in, if you're looking to make your 5e games a little more exciting, check out the new series of animated reference cards from our sponsor Hit Point Press. These are still neck and neck with Humblewood as my favorite thing Hit Point Press makes. You can, of course, get your spell cards, which cover all the SRD spells from cantrips up to 9th level spells with animation on the front and the spell details on the back, but you can also get condition cards to help folks keep track of any ailments they may get along the way. And there are NPC Townsfolk cards to create memorable characters on the fly. And they have in-game items you can give your players as well. The Deck of Many Things if you're ready to embrace chaos, and the Deck of Illusions, which you can give to most any adventuring party to create a little chaotic fun in your games without upending your entire adventure. Right now you can get discounts on a bundle of level 6 to 9 spell decks and a bundle that includes the Townsfolk Illusions conditions and a spellcraft deck that you can use for your own spells. Check them all out at the link below the video or at animatedspells.com. Before we dive into the individual heists, let me talk about the framing device. If you like, you can introduce an organization called the Golden Vault, which is headquartered in another plane. The players get a magical music box that will deliver missions to them a la Mission Impossible.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim.
You're given a handler NPC to move the plot along if you want, tips on making the missions more difficult if things are going too smoothly, and a rival crew to use to keep the adventurers on their toes. Each adventure comes with a unique hand-drawn map that you can print out and give to your players of the location that they're going to be attempting to infiltrate. Some of the maps are more accurate than others, but the GM will also get a regular gridded version of the map to run the adventure. And most of the missions have a contact person for the players to get more information before they get started with the heist. Also, interestingly, while all these adventures are rather setting agnostic, they each are placed in a particular location, and several of them are set in places that were first introduced in Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. So let me officially retract my fear that those locations were gonna be abandoned after that book. Hopefully though, this one isn't the last time we see those places though. So let's go through now each individual adventure and I will give you my take on them. The first adventure is the Murkmire Malevolence, and again, I would love to be able to tell you who wrote each of these adventures, but that information isn't provided in the book. In this adventure, the fertilized egg of an eldritch horror was mistaken for a historical object and put on display in a museum. The museum won't listen to reason, so the PCs are dispatched to get it out of there before it has a chance to hatch. And this is really a classic caper mixed with night at the museum. There are multiple safeguards in place, including a variety of alarm spells and animated statues, roaming guards, and locked doors. The first half of the mission will have the PCs attending a fancy gala and doing as much scouting of the place as possible. There are workarounds for every security measure, and it is up to the PCs to figure those out. And then the actual heist, of course, takes place in the second half of the adventure. There are story hooks to continue the story, whether or not the PCs succeed. This is really similar to one of those intro adventures to D&D that I used to run all the time at cons. Just a little bit more fleshed out and complex. But I think it would still work well to introduce folks to the game. It's tough to know what to do the first time you play D&D, but if you introduce it with a classic trope like a museum caper, I think your players will have a really easy time learning the system. This is a great first adventure. The second adventure is the Stygian Gambit, in which you'll be stealing a statuette and some gold from a Nine Hells inspired casino. This adventure includes a lot of great setting info to make that casino come alive, from playable casino mini games that you can lift and use in other adventures, to a full menu at the restaurant. The heist itself, though, doesn't seem to bring a lot new to the table. It's a pretty standard sort of affair, but if you enjoy the idea of casino heists, here you go, this one's gonna be a good one. Reach for the Stars is a little bit different. It is a horror-themed adventure in which you have to invade a house haunted by incursions from the far realm in order to retrieve an evil book. This is a pretty straightforward murder house style adventure that ends in the classic interrupting a summoning ritual thing. Lots of encounters, lots of creepy and gruesome imagery, but maybe not a lot well-seasoned adventuring parties haven't seen before. We are hitting all the tropes in this book, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Next up is Prisoner 13, in which the PCs have to break into and out of a prison in the frozen north to obtain a key from the titular Prisoner 13. I quite like this one. Your adventuring party may begin the adventure split off from each other, and there's an entire suspicion subsystem which will put the guards on higher or lower alert depending on the actions of the PCs, and the PCs may have to go without their weapons for a while if they're confiscated. There's also some fun characters and some interesting choices for the party to make, because at the end, they're going to discover that the key is actually a magical tattoo on Prisoner 13, so leaving with it isn't going to be easy. Though I think they had the opportunity to give the PCs some really tough moral decisions to make here about what they were willing to do to complete their mission, and as written, it doesn't really seem to land. Though of course, you can make alterations to the mission as you like. Next up is Tockworth's Clockworks for level 5 characters. The PCs will be entering the besieged Svirfneblin town of Little Lockford that's overwhelmed with hostile clockwork creatures. They have to find a security key to trigger an override device to shut those creatures down. The cause of this trouble is a gnome tinkerer named Tixie Tockworth, who is hell-bent on turning herself into a construct. This is, again, a perfectly competent adventure in a fun setting, though the structure of the story is kind of predictable, and again, there aren't a lot of tough choices for the PCs to make. If you're drawn to the setting, a deep gnome city in the Underdark overrun by clockwork, then you're going to have a good time. Also at level 5, we have Masterpiece Imbroglio, in which the PCs will be infiltrating a thieves guild to recover a stolen painting. This of course involves lots of subterfuge and disguises and trap detection and secret rooms and people who aren't what they appear to be. It's probably one of the more lengthy adventures in the book, and again, a strong, competent, if straightforward affair. Now that we're getting a little bit higher in level, magic is going to take a more prominent role in the adventures, and this adventure here does a good job of helping you navigate the way spells may interact with the rest of the adventure, anything that the PCs may cast. Axe from the Grave sees the PCs retrieving a mandolin stolen in a grave robbing. The theft of the beloved item resulted in the owner rising as a zombie and plaguing a nearby town. Here the PCs will be raiding a countryside music conservatory, and it's recommended that at least one party member be a bard to get the most thematic fun out of the adventure. This adventure doesn't feature a hand-drawn map, but some NPCs do build a charming sandcastle to give a sense of what the heist location looks like. What the sandcastle doesn't convey is that the conservatory is really under the control of some fiends, so the PCs will have to work that out for themselves. This one is pretty fun, and I dare say the PCs won't quite know what they're getting into in this adventure, unlike some of the more predictable ones we've seen up to now. At At 7th level, we have Vidorant's Vault, in which the PCs will have to infiltrate a well-protected vault of a master thief. This adventure is really designed for PCs who might be interested in joining the prestigious Thieves Guild themselves, so probably not your group of lawful good paladins. There is a good bit of preparation the PCs can do, including some surveillance, which will give them advantages once they're in the heist proper. And the adventure gives PCs multiple ways to deal with obstacles, including the patrolling guards. Again, this is a heist with lots of traps and lots of treasure, seeing that it's a vault and all. In the end, the owner of the vault shows up and offers the PCs a deal. You know that's the kind of thing I like. Because it happens at the end of the one-shot though, it will be up to the GM to make sure the PC's choice here has repercussions down the line. But this may be an opportunity to introduce the rival thieving group from the first chapter. This is a competent adventure that has the potential for more stories to spin out of it. Next up is Shard of the Accursed at 8th level. The PCs come into possession of a stolen cursed item called the Shard of Zuluan. Its theft has seemingly caused a series of earthquakes to befall the region near the tomb from which it was plundered. It's up to the PCs to smuggle the item back into the tomb, which is being excavated by a criminal organization. So this is like a reverse heist. The adventure has some pretty cool lore surrounding it that I'm going to leave you and your adventuring group to discover on your own. And the actual dungeon delve into the tomb includes some interesting fights and lots of secret doors and some ghostly shenanigans. Again, this one is solid, with the highlight probably being all the interesting lore to discover, but it's straightforward without a lot of meaningful choices to make. The other 8th level adventure is Heart of Ashes, and it reads more like a fairy tale. An evil spellcaster has magically torn the still beating heart from the country's king and is using it to slowly destroy the kingdom. The PCs have to sneak in and retrieve the heart to end the ritual. So this one will have the PCs breaking into this castle that's being slowly pulled up into a vortex in the sky, with floating rooms full of ashen monsters who use modified stat blocks. Heart of Ashes does a good job of being atmospheric and feeling pretty epic with that ever-growing vortex swirling above the castle. And in the end, the PCs will have the choice of destroying the heart when they find it, or attempting the more difficult prospect of carrying the heart back out of the castle. If the heart is recovered, all the lives that were lost will be restored, including any PCs who may have fallen along the way. But if the heart is destroyed, those trapped souls will be freed into the afterlife. So ideally, the PCs would feel a lot of mortal danger in their escape. Should they risk losing their own lives, knowing that if they can just get the heart out, then all will be recovered? If you keep up the pressure, this could be one of the best adventures in this book. At level 9, we get another adventure inspired by popular fiction, Affair on the Concordant Express. The PCs are tasked with obtaining the true names of several fiends from the mind of a prisoner on board an interplanar train bound for Mechanus. Am I finally getting a 5e modern adventure? I've been waiting for this for years. And yes, I am. Also, by the way, we really need a modern warband from WizKids. I need those minis. Also, as far as I know, we don't even have art for 5e for any of the higher level modern. And indeed, in this adventure, the most powerful modern is the Pentagerm. Anyway, one of the other unique twists about this adventure is that you're given a modular train. The first, last, and plot important jail car are required, but then you can build the rest of the train by selecting from 6 other cars. The adventure is designed around you selecting 3, but you can take more or less than that to alter the mission's length and difficulty, which is awesome. Also, this gives you replayability. And friends, these train cars are wild. This adventure is just packed to the brim with whimsical, fun encounters, including, obviously, a murder that needs to be solved. Also, the train will pass through multiple planes of existence along its journey, include Acheron, Elysium, Mount Celestia, the 9 Hells, Pandemonium, and Isgard. And while the train is in each plane, certain effects will be felt on board. Now, the adventure itself isn't particularly thrilling, and the only real way to get the names from the prisoner is to promise to release him, so there aren't a lot of meaningful choices to be made either, but this adventure is just fun if you want something to just delight your players. Party at Paliset Hall sees the PCs trying to steal a diamond from a gala in the Feywild. The hostess is actually trapped inside the diamond, and a simulacrum of her has replaced her, all of which was orchestrated by a far realm invader also looking to escape the diamond. The hostess's husband noticed the change and is trying to get help to recover the diamond and free his wife. This one has some extra dimensional shenanigans and a surprise confrontation with a coven of night hags, but it kind of sidesteps an encounter with that far realm entity, which seems like it really should have been the climax of the adventure, leaving you as a game master to deal with the fallout of his possible escape. It seems like a fun adventure, but probably not the first one I'd choose to run from this book. It's one that needs a second half to feel like a complete story to me. Finally, we have an 11th level adventure, Fire and Darkness. The stakes of this adventure are pretty high. An evil and powerful Afridi has come into possession of an evil artifact known as the Book of Vile Darkness. And the PCs have to break into his evil volcano lair to retrieve it with the assistance of a duplicitous Arcanoloth who, unbeknownst to the adventurers, wants the artifact for himself. This is a pretty epic, classic heist to end the book on. There's lots of potential danger if the PCs don't keep a low profile, and the artifact itself is pretty astounding. It is an evil artifact that you can certainly have a lot of fun with in your adventures. Among other things, evil characters can use it to become liches or death knights. You can use it to command evil creatures, and it's all but impossible to destroy unless all evil in the multiverse has been eradicated. All in all, Fire and Darkness seems like a great capstone to the book. Now, I always find stealth missions like heists like these to be kind of challenging as a game master, but the tension that they provide to the players can be magnificent. The trick is that you really do have to punish behavior that draws attention to the PCs without upending the entire mission and just saying game over. So keep that all in mind as you run these adventures. And I don't think I necessarily want to run this as a full campaign, just because a lot of the gameplay is going to be pretty repetitive. Research and stake out the place, then infiltrate and stealth and retreat. The locations of the adventures are certainly pretty varied, but I want my campaigns to be like more organic, giving you more freedom than just a series of missions like this. Luckily, if you don't want to engage with the Golden Vault conceit at all, each mission has several adventure hooks so that you can pick and choose your favorites and connect them to your ongoing campaigns just like you would a big bad booklet or an epic encounter box. So which ones are my favorites? Let me tell you. The first one, the Murkmire Malevolence, where the PCs have to steal an egg from the museum. It just seems like a fantastic way to show new players how exciting a game of D&D can be, and because it's at first level, it's going to feel more grounded and more like a classic heist movie. Prisoner 13 is fun since the MacGuffin that the PCs have to steal is actually a tattoo, and the heist itself seems like it's pretty well designed, and I think I might tweak it though a little bit to make the PCs have to make some tougher moral choices. Vidorant's Vault is a great mission for a group of morally ambiguous rogues or similar. This is one where there's going to be breaking into the Thieves Guild and they'll get a chance to double cross their original patron, so it can be a lot of fun and it can set up future stories for your campaigns. Heart of Ashes looks like it can be fantastic if you run it as a very dangerous, deadly mission. Since getting the heart out of that floating castle will restore anyone lost back to life, you can feel free to just let loose on that one. It is gonna be tricky to get that balance right, but if you can pull it off, it is gonna be super memorable for your players. And of course, Affair on the Concordant Express is just a whimsical breath of fresh air, and it feels like it was made just for me. If you want some lighthearted fun and some modern action, I don't think you can go wrong with that one. And finally, Fire and Darkness just looks like a classic epic heist, and I really want that Book of Vile Darkness in whatever campaign I'm running. Overall, I think the quality of the adventures here is good. Nothing struck me as a clunker. If any of the themes or settings intrigued you, I think you're gonna have a good time with them. So this is a pretty good D&D anthology that should give you enough heist missions to last you for years. With 5th edition, we now have a ton of one-shots in all these various anthologies, and a ton of campaigns that will take you from level 1 to 12 or so. But aside from Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is honestly more of an anthology book than a full campaign itself, we still have no real high-level content. Honestly, what I'd like to see next is an epic level 1 to 20 adventure to fully explore everything D&D has to offer. 5th edition has been out for nearly 10 years now, and we still don't have that. Pathfinder 2nd edition hasn't even been out for 4 years, and we already have 6 complete level 1 to 20 adventures. It seems like they're going to retire 5th edition before we even get one epically long campaign. The closest we really got was the very first adventure, Tyranny of Dragons, which went from level 1 to 15, but that one got some pretty mixed reviews. The first adventure for any new edition has a tough road to hoe. So come on, Wizards, give us that epic campaign, please. Keys from the Golden Vault has an official release date of February 21st, 2023, though it can be purchased right now from D&D Beyond and you'll get access right away. You can bundle the standard cover with the D&D Beyond edition for about $60. You can pre-order the standard edition itself for between $40 and $50, and the special edition will be in bookstores with an MSRP of about $50. The D&D Beyond digital version is $29.99 or $25.49 if you purchase the Legendary Bundle at some point. We'll have links to all those purchase options down in the doohickey below. And don't forget to pick up some animated reference cards from Hit Point Press to bling out all those new adventures you're about to go on. Use our links below to let them know we sent you. Quick personal note, we just hit 20,000 subscribers, which feels amazing. I am constantly trying to improve our content here and grow the channel, so seeing your video likes, reading your kind and informative comments, and having you subscribe to the channel all mean an awful lot to me. So thank you. You can always find us on social media, including TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Mastodon. And you can order yourself some cuddly, customizable kobolds at koboldplush.com. For now, stay safe, have fun, love each other, and I will see you next time at the Gallant Goblin.